Sponsored by Active International. Active International is the independent leader in corporate trade, an innovative solution for companies holding excess assets, from unsold product to unused capital equipment to unwanted real estate. Rather than receive cents on the dollar for these assets through traditional liquidation methods, Active partners with brands to realize full book value, mitigate loss, and generate immediate funds. Then, Active enables these brands to use the value they receive towards the purchase of media of all types, resulting in a higher return on ad spend. Celebrating nearly 4 decades of successful transactions through their unique corporate trade model, Active helps brands large and small transform products that aren't making money into working capital to support products that will. Active's unique ability to restore full value to obsolete assets together with their unrivaled investment strategies across the media marketplace has brands considering new solutions for their supply chain challenges and raising the bar on their return on ad spend. For more information on Active International and corporate trade, visit activeinternational.com.
Welcome to the Procurement Foundry show, TenureTalks. We ask the same 5 questions each week, providing you with chewable bites of expertise. I am your host, Sarah Scudder, print procurement guru. I run Real Sourcing Network, a technology company that provides an innovative and painless way for organizations to buy high-quality print for less. Today, my guest is Stefan Dent. He and I have known each other for a couple years now, and I think one of the last conferences that I actually attended in person, he was there as well. So great to have him on our show today. So Stefan, I like to kick off each show making it a little fun and personal. So if you could please share a couple random non-business related facts about yourself.
Oh, that's a big question for a start. So first of all, nice to see you again, Sarah. Delighted to be on the program as well. So congratulations with this. Oh my God, you give me a tough one right from the start. So I guess a couple of things. One, and this is probably quite a common theme for a number of people listening to this. I had no intention at all of becoming a procurement person, working in this procurement field. Completely fell into this by accident. I actually come from a marketing and a sales background, and a long, long time ago, I was encouraged or bribed, is the term I use actually, to go into a procurement role. This is back actually in the mid to late 90s, actually, a long, long time ago now, when procurement was a real dusty profession, typically led by a bunch of sort of engineer type people, very introverted, all of those types of descriptions. And I was bought or plucked from the sort of sales and marketing background. In fact, there were 2 of us at a company called Bass Brewers. So I used to sell beer. Actually, they're much more, I don't know what I'm doing now if I want to go back to doing this. And I was plucked from this sort of sales and marketing side for a very large international company selling beers and doing a hotel business. It was part of the Intercon hotel group as well at the same time. And we were brought in to run procurement. And the first category that I was actually put into was running IT and telecoms procurement, knowing nothing at all, quite frankly, around IT and telecoms and then procurement at the same time. And one of the first projects I did was to actually buy a software license for an e-procurement system. And again, when no one knew what e-procurement was. And I think we were the second company within the UK, which is where I hail from, as you probably know, second only to Boots Walgreens to actually implement e-procurement. So we were one of the forerunners of doing that. I guess something else around this, I've been around the world, working in different places for a number of years. I find myself in lockdown back in the UK right now and can't get back into the US actually, but I've lived for a number of years in places like the Middle East for about 9 years as well. So I've actually lived most of my life from a professional front, or at least half of it outside of the UK. So we have a very sort of eclectic and a holistic view of different views around how people procure, how organizations procure, and how that is run from a cultural perspective in places like the Middle East, obviously to North America and across Europe down to Australia. So anyway, that's a little bit about me.
When I think of you, I think of the George Clooney movie, Up in the Air. You're always back and forth between US and UK and all over the world. And my important follow-up question is, what is your favorite type of beer?
Oh, I've got to, in that case, I've got to go back to the company that I used to work with, which is a very famous brand. It's actually the oldest UK trademark, which is BASS, BASS. So I don't know if you remember this, but it's a red triangle as a logo, and it was actually I believe it's the oldest trademark registered in the UK. This goes back, like 200 years or so. So I've got to say BASS beer. So I don't find it very often in the US. It was actually very popular maybe about 5-10 years ago. But then you've got these other craft beers come in. So there you go.
I've added it to my Google list.
So Sarah, I'll take
I've
one of those when I see you.
I'm going to Google it today so I can check out the logo.
I'll share a pint with you.
So, Stefan, tell me a little bit about yourself and your current role.
Okay, so I'm one of the co-founders at a company called Symphony. That's SIMFONI. Not the Y as the sort of musical piece goes. Symphony was founded back in 2015, and what we're about is we're bringing pretty radical change actually to the way that procurement technology is actually delivered to the masses. We've got a pretty sort of radical view in terms of the commercial model, and also the agility and what people actually expect from modern procurement solutions. Now, that's not to be disparaging around other procurement solutions that are out there. There's some wonderful solutions out there, and we're very happy to be part of that wider community. What we focus on are sort of two main things which are very interconnected. One is analytics. Analytics for us is foundational. That's the word I use. We marry deep procurement expertise, which is what we bring from Symphony. I've been in procurement for many, many years now, as have a number of the other people within Symphony. We marry that with deep technology experience. So we bring fast, innovative, disruptive technology married with procurement domain expertise, which is why we're what we believe we offer such great value to customers. So the analytics is really the forerunner for us. It tells us where you are as a customer, and we help customers to understand what's going on with their data, but also we use that to be very much forward tilt, as we call it, around what does that data tell you from a spend value, a risk, a sustainability perspective. There's multiple dimensional aspects to the data in terms of how that helps you make decisions or better informed decisions going forward. Then the outer layer to that is around what we call spend automation. So spend automation for us is really the future of e-procurement technology, and what spend automation does uniquely is that it blends what we call marketplace content, so it's content as in deals, okay, with services. So the technology to us, the term I often use is a bit of a misnomer. It's a bit of a red herring. Technology alone does not deliver value. That's a big statement. It does not deliver value. So you can buy a big e-procurement solution or contract management solutions from some wonderful providers out there, but without the necessary content and the services, it doesn't deliver the value. And that's why you get a lot of disheartened people when they buy these big solutions. 5 years later, they're still halfway through implementation. That's got to change. And procurement's got to change. So that's what we do. So we bring the technology, we bring the latest AI-informed technology blended with content and services, and we make it much more accessible to people in the market, removing the barriers to entry around the software fee, and they can just get going, typically within a month, which is unheard of. So that's what we're about.
Yeah, change management is quite big and important in procurement. Shifting the conversation a little bit, Stefan, who was one person, mentor, coach, or boss that helped you in your career, and how did they help?
I'll go back all the way back, actually, and I saw that question, and it was quite a nice thing to think back through. When I first came into procurement, I told you that procurement was not my chosen career. I kind of joked about that at the front of the conversation, but having been then sort of sheep dipped in it, and a learning curve, which was like, it was literally sort of climbing a brick wall, and I remember going to conversations with the likes of IBM and Microsoft and talking about all of these acronyms that I had no idea what they were on about. But there was a guy called David Heed who brought me into procurement all those years ago. David himself actually comes from a commercial sales and finance background. And there was a big, I guess what you call it, one of the early procurement transformations, one of the earliest procurement transformations actually, back in the day. This is back in the 90s. And he plucked a couple of us from, as I say, a sales and sort of marketing background. and he wanted to really shake up procurement. I didn't quite know that at the time. I didn't really fully appreciate it until probably a number of years later, if I'm being honest. And he wanted to bring that sort of fresh thinking, to bring more like a sales and commercial background into this quite sort of engineering-led procurement function that wouldn't leave the office and go and see these people called suppliers or customers, that type of thing. And of course, I was used to doing that. And actually, I spent most of the working week outside of the office, sat with the IT function, who were in a different building, by the way, also out seeing suppliers. But what David did was to give us the freedom to go out and shake things up, do what we did from a commercial perspective, and apply that to procurement and make that change. And I didn't know it at the time about how innovative and disruptive he was being, and in fact BAS were being back in the day. I've got a lot of warm feelings for them actually in terms of what they gave me. And so I would credit David and some other people around him for being visionary, because they were really trailblazing back in the day there. There weren't these procurement transformations to follow all around the world, which we've had for the last 20 years. I look back with very fond memories in terms of what I learned there before I then went off into working around the world in consulting and doing procurement transformations myself. So yeah, I tip my cap to David.
What is the most innovative thing that you've seen in your space in the last 12 months?
That's a hard question. So it's a good question. It's a hard question because I think the pace of change around what we're doing right now is just it's just phenomenal, which is really exciting. And what you're seeing is a lot of smaller, more nimble companies coming into the fray. You've obviously got the big companies that have been there for a number of years. And you've got these innovators and disruptors, and we're probably in that field as well, coming in to disrupt the status quo and, as I say, remove barriers to entry. That's one of the big things I like doing. One of the big sort of things that we're looking at, and really as a phrase here, which is sort of to respond to your question, is how we democratize procurement. I think that's a really, really important phrase. Now that breaks down, because that's a phrase. Okay, what does it mean? What does it mean in reality? And what this is around, I think the shape of procurement's got to change. We've got some very strong views around this. And it's not just all about the technology, it's around the change, as you said, Sarah, as well. But it's around pushing procurement out to the masses. We still need controls. We need to manage the risk and the compliance and everything. Of course we do, it needs to be measured. But we need to remove the barriers to entry for the end users to actually access the supply that they need, whether it's in professional services, engineering, marketing, your field, for example. You know, you've got some very demanding people in marketing, brand and creative types. And of course, they're very passionate about it, and price means nothing, but the value creation is there. And I've got a lot of empathy for that, by the way. I really do. So I think there's the change in this is around things that we're doing as well. It's around what we call conversational buying, which is driven by AI scripts. And we're really pushing out this technology to the end users so they can self-source, which is one of the other phrases we use. So the end users can self-source some quite complex services. We're not talking about pencils here. We're talking about maybe a marketing campaign, some engineering equipment, professional services, but they're doing that within a technology-enabled platform that grabs them by the hand, takes them through a very nice, user interface, a very nice, easy journey, and it talks to them, it chats to them. That's the conversational AI. And back to that, how we democratize procurement, it's really opening up to people who previously probably hated procurement, as I did, by the way, when I was in sales. Procurement were, procurement police. They would stop me from doing all of the creative things that I was trying to do. I have empathy for both of those sides now, later on. But I think pushing out that to the end users and also grabbing more spend. So one of the other things that we focus on is also around tail spend management, which is actually getting to the last dollar. And some of that spend can be incredibly fragmented. And it's so hard for the procurement team to do everything. They've got smaller teams, smaller budgets, etc. And I think that will continue. That will not change. So therefore, you've got to find different ways of doing things, using the technology to actually encourage end users to use the technology. They're being guided and chaperoned, okay, to actually run their procurements, but they are doing it within a safe harbor controlled environment. But the last thing to say is that the end user feels great about it. So you're empowering the end user. They feel empowered, they feel great about it. They want to use the system again because they had a great experience. that's a true win-win. Now, they don't know they're being controlled necessarily, but they have a great experience, and the spend is competed. They're compliant. Everyone's a winner. And that's got to be the way forward for me, about democratizing procurement and using the technology to enable that.
One of my favorite phrases is tame the tail.
Exactly. Love it.
Stefan, what is one unique thing that we don't know about you professionally?
Oh, well, I said about sort of being around the world and living in places like the Middle East, etc. But you wouldn't know it. I've been in lockdown now for about a year, and I've got incredibly out of shape, etc. But back in the day, I used to do a huge amount of running and try and keep fit, etc. So I have done a couple of marathons before. You wouldn't know that today, and I wouldn't. And please don't say anything. You'll make me cry. So that's pretty about that's probably about it actually. Around, you know. And again, before that, coming from a sales and marketing background where I completely probably hated procurement people with a vengeance around it. But no, that's really the last sort of inklings I can give of something from my background.
It sounds like I need to be sending a treadmill your way.
Please do. I'll take a Peloton or something any day. So.
All right, Stefan, our final question is, what is one piece of advice that you can give people clawing up the ranks?
So I love working with people, with young people, well, people of any age, quite frankly, but particularly young people coming in, who obviously want to learn and want to achieve. And I get a lot of, you know, satisfaction from watching those people succeed. I really do. What I say to people, in terms of, you know, based on my experience, is it's around having the courage and the confidence first to do something. Now, it's not about being completely disruptive, and you know, not everyone's got to be sort of knock it out of the park in the first sort of month or 1 year of being there. But it's more about the attitude and that confidence, as I say, and commitment to actually make a change. And then with that, if you're prepared to then, I think, step up and actually put your sort of head on the block and get noticed, your head above the parapet, etc., is to then don't be afraid of actually making mistakes, that you know, failing fast, as people say. I'm a strong believer in that. Obviously, you've got to be measured, you've got to be sensible about it as well. But I just love people who try, who come in and say, right, I'm going to do a demo to a customer, for example. So we have a lot of our young guys who come into the company run demos. Okay, and we're okay. We say to clients, actually, this person is relatively new, but the software is so, you know, easy to use, etc. We just love it. That these people love showing off what they can do. Now, they will make mistakes when they actually do the demo. They will make mistakes, okay, in front of a live client as well, actually. Some people may say that's not necessarily professional, but what I like seeing is that they can see the person's trying and they can see what they're trying to achieve, but that's okay. So I think as long as the attitude is there, the commitment and the courage is there to actually work, and it's not necessarily about the hours or anything like that, it's around more the attitude. I'm so happy if they do something and they get it 70% right in the first time, they've got 30% to make up, that's perfectly fine. And I think looking back in my background, we're almost taught to be too polished, and that you never get things done, you're polishing things too much, and then it kind of loses its impact. So that is probably what I would say to people is just try it, do it, even in this weird procurement space that we work in. Again, some really exciting things going on right now, and particularly around some of the new technology, is try it, build something, write a script, do this. You know, this machine learning stuff is really driving us forward, and it's driving us to do things differently. So yeah, just try. If you fail, that's okay. Do it again. Fail, that's okay. You do it again, it will become right. So I just love seeing that. Get a huge amount of satisfaction when they make that breakthrough and they get it. So that's incredibly rewarding.
I appreciate you humanizing a lot of the selling and buying process. So Stefan, with that, I want to thank you so much for being on our show today.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate it. Nice to see you again. I look forward to seeing you in person, and you can buy me a beer.
Deal.
Take care.